You're welcome to this lecture. My name is SSebuyungo Wilber Kivekayunga. I'm a lecturer at Nkumba University and a managing director of the Action Entrepreneurs. Today, I would like us to look at business and its environment. And these are concepts that can work in the nation and in the international world. So we're going to make a connection between business and environment, and then that's where we shall be able to make decisions regarding our businesses with a consideration of the environments within which our businesses are actually operating. So environments, when we talk about environments, actually, when we are looking at business, we see that business is not only operating in isolation, that you've only set up your business, whether it is a production business or it is a service providing business. So this business is not in isolation, it is opening up and operating in an open world. So the decisions that you take nationally or you take within the business have an effect that they have on the national affairs, and also the nation makes decisions through parliament, through the judiciary, makes decisions, and the executive also makes decisions that takes a center stage in the nations, and they can actually be affecting your business. So we in this module we focus on how businesses should operate to be able to break through the environments surrounding them, and how they should actually be making decisions considering the environment that surrounding these businesses. So as an entrepreneur or director or even a manager of a business, you should be in consideration of what actually is happening in the internal environment of business, and also the external environment of business. So in this module, we have two environments, mainly the internal environment and also the external environment. So when we are focusing on environments, we need to actually look at exploring the expansive environments around which businesses operate, and that the entrepreneurs or managers, directors, and other operators have to make decisions considering the various environments in which the business actually is sitting or in which the business is operating. So any decision or any plan or even any actions or operations taken contrary to what the environment predicts and what the environment is spelling that this business should be or should go can actually hinder the progress of the business itself. And that's why entrepreneurs, business directors, managers, and operators have got to assess the environments in which the businesses are operating, so that they make sound decisions that will result into a just position in which businesses have to progress, as well as considering affairs that are not necessarily of internal concern. So we consider these environments so that we thrive well and be able to operate very well. I would like us to put our focus on the external environment, considering the ActionNet model. And this model was developed by action entrepreneurs as they have been doing research in Western Uganda, in Central and the West Nile, and even the East. So this is research done but also you will see other scholars have come up with models that explain external environments and how they affect business operations, such as the pastel. You will see the pastello business models. So this one we are focusing on here is the actionant model from Action Entrepreneurs. When you have a business here and your business is established, possibly it could be operating, or it is not yet established, so you're planning to have it operate, operating in a mode that is either producing products or trading in them, and either the business is dealing in infrastructure development, or otherwise it can also be doing service delivery. So in that environment, in that business sense, where you've set up an establishment that is dealing in production or what you call manufacturing, and at the same time having either you're dealing in infrastructure development or delivering services which are not tangible but are very central in the communities, such as communication, those services are internet connection, those services that are not tangible, and other services that you can have, such as health, Medicare and Medicare services, medical services, or education, or legal services. All those services that we cannot come and start to touch them, but are actually also in the other way intangible products. So whether they are physical products or business is dealing with intangible products, yes, you're operating in the communities, and you're operating to make sure that you deliver you deliver squarely in your communities and the cause developments within your organization, within the community, nationally and internationally. So you need to consider some ethical standards for quality of products, and also consider some of the standards of it could be national standards or international standards while delivering your services. So your business is not operating in isolation, that it is there. So everything is about you and the people within this enterprise. There are very many aspects which we are calling the environment, which actually affect your business. Others can call them factors that can be affecting your business in one way or the other. And these actually you need to put more attention to these environments, because at any instance of making decision, either in boardroom or in your office or in meetings or anywhere, and you're going to take any action regarding those decisions, then the mind and the plans you have developed should be considering that these environments have to be. One of the environment we are going to focus on is the political environment. You will see that nations are operating in a political environment that involves political parties and leadership, which around the business. So you'll end up seeing that, for example, if it comes to schools, there could be times of campaigning in secondary schools and universities, and you may end up having some of the political leaders in their views, those who are aspiring to become leaders in the communities, are actually knocking on the doors of your institution, talking to staff about the political affairs. And now it comes that the moment you've crossed out or crossed them out of your business internal environment, and it happens that they are maybe gone through is a member of parliament and or the chairperson of the district or this state. He has become the president of the state, and one day they needed to use your compound, they needed to use your field for a political activity, and you blocked them out. And then there is a national program that is either funding businesses or is involving businesses for some benefits, and then your business is in need of such services, and the people whom you blocked out are actually the ones that are at the front line of providing these services. Possibly you will feel like you shouldn't engage these people, and you should not be involved in the projects that have come up because at one time you set a foundation that was improper. The politics of the community, sometimes you'll find that is favoring some colors, and then some colors are favored because they belong to a certain political party. That if your logo or your uniform, the uniform of your institution is dominated by that color, then clients can actually start to affiliate your business progress or business activities to a certain political party. So when taking decisions in branding and taking decisions on how to structure business, you have to consider what would be the perspective of the external political environment affecting your business. So when you actually look at the politics of the community, when there are conflicts within the community, and these conflicts can actually also spread to your institution. That's why it is advisable that business entities extend their corporate social responsibility when it comes to creating peace and social justice and promoting them in the community, because you realize that if there is a political distractions and there are political conflicts in the community, then possibly you will not sell well, you will not sell adequately, or you will not produce sufficiently, and some of the ways can be blocked. The supply chain can be blocked, and then the market distribution chain can also be blocked, and you find that the political stress, political distress, and all political affairs are actually spreading into affecting your own enterprise. So you can't be in the business and say that the politics is not of your concern. Recently, you will see that the newspapers have been publishing that schools, taking example of schools, that the government has okayed mobile gadget usage in the schools. And now here it comes that you have suspended or expelled a student who has entered the school with a phone, and the government through the parliament has actually pronounced that phones and gadgets are allowed in schools for research purposes, and that the digital agenda of the country has to be solidified, and digital devices have got to be allowed in the school. So when you take a decision, regardless of the politics and what the government itself has dictated upon what businesses should do and what should not do, then possibly you are going contrary to the national political demands, and these are very key in the business establishment, that you need to consider the political environment and what is happening in politics. So when it comes to international politics as well, you will realize that nations like Europe, okay, communities like Europe, USA, and China have some political inclinations, and these political inclinations at some instances can cause some legal impositions. They can impose laws onto the international businesses, and you will see that agents such as the UN have their own visions, and the European Union also have their own provisions and extensions into countries, and what they prefer businesses to be operating, and how they prefer these businesses to be operating. So when it comes to political setups and what the parliament is really drafting, and what the parliament is proposing or passing, has a direct touch and a direct effect onto your businesses. Actually, strong entrepreneurs are sitting down to make sure that they are reading newspapers, they are reading journals, they are listening to the media to actually get information from the political environment and be on the same page with what is happening in politics, so that their businesses are on the same pace, or when it comes to making decisions considering a political establishment of that country. So if you let your minds or your decisions operate outside the political setup of your community, possibly you will get affected, because the politics of the community is dynamic and is changing all the time, and therefore businesses should be getting this dynamic flow of the political setup of their communities, so that public relations are corporate social responsibilities in these communities, and also contributions to the state through taxes and through compliances, tax compliances are done, considering the changes in the laws that can come across, that can be developed through the political establishment. I would like to add some legal environment to politics. We know very well that politics is the center of formulation of policies and the center of formulation of laws. However, we can treat laws as a side on the side of politics, though it is the parliament that makes the laws. Laws are actually implemented by the executive and also the judiciary. So if one or at one instance your business goes astray or strays away from the legal establishments within that state, either the legal establishments are guiding cash movement, and that those who are involved in money laundering are going against the state, and also cash movements on how much cash can be repatriated if the business you're setting up is foreign, and it is by non-residents, and those non-residents have a legal implication. If you're registering business and you're registering it as a non-resident business or owned business, you'll find that in some countries, non-residents are not allowed to own or shareholding of over 51%, or if they own 51%, the other proportion of 49% has got to be owned by nationals. So if a business is established and then it is not within the legal provisions of the state, it is bound to close, and it is bound to be closed in a very regrettable way, and a position of regrets. So from the time of bearing the business idea, there is a legal attachment. There are some products and there are some services which are not allowed in some states. And if you indulge or get involved in production of such products, and then your business is bound to be closed up, and also the promoters of the business are bound to be incarcerated for operating outside the provisions of law. Right from registration of business, to establish a business, you've got to register it, and registering the business name that is provided for by law, and registering a company, and who should be the directors of the company, the secretary of the company, and up to getting a trade license. So to operate a business without a trade license is going outside the provisions of law. So your business should have a trade license and should be kept in a conspicuous of a place of visibility within your office, and even or places of operation, which you call the principal place of operation, or principal place of business, or your business location has to be registered. If you're operating a business in a place that is not known by government and is not registered in there, then possibly you are operating outside the law. Even if it comes to employing people, there are legal attachments to it, and employment contracts. You follow the employment law. You follow to operate entire business. You need the Companies Act. To comply with taxes. You have to follow the Domestic Tax Act and the Income Tax Act, that the businesses have got to comply with, even when you're paying pay as you earn, paying VAT. All those, you need to know when to actually submit your returns, and then when do they consider that returns have been submitted late, when should the payments be made in the to the tax body. For the case of Uganda, if your business is operating a bank account, then those bank accounts have got to be duly registered. If it's a company, then they are non-individual bank accounts, and the signatories have got to be clearly known, and the sources of cash. They are those documents that you've got to submit to the bank to apply for an account, and those documents have got to be truthful, and you have to declare that they are true and right for being used as documents of your company or your organization. You will find that in some countries, then getting money from external communities like donor communities or from well wishers is regulated, and and how much should be received per month is also regulated. If the company keeps receiving money, it can be a threat to the political environment and can be a contravention from the laws that are leading the company or guiding your organizational activities. Even when it comes to international trading and you're going expounding beyond borders, there are those regulations that you have to comply in exporting goods to another state, and that the regulatory bodies responsible for quality standards have got to have sealed your products, and they have got to have authorized that your products are actually meeting national standards and also the international standards organization. Those are legal atmosphere, the legal atmosphere. That is the legal atmosphere within which your business should actually be aware. And when it comes to foreign cash exchanges, all those you need to be aware of what are the legal provisions surrounding it as before you actually go and get involved in either establishing a manufacturing plant or establishing a branch, a trading branch in another state, or you want to actually expand your businesses to Africa, to the US, and all around the world. So that you have to really study what are the laws governing the region, and what are the laws governing the state in which you want to expand it to, and then get informed, or whether in most of the countries in the Anglophone countries and the francophone countries, you've got to register a business in a business name, and also to make sure that you are licensed to operate in that country. So you register freshly in that country and operate a subsidiary. So all those you really need to be aware. And when it comes to laws, the laws are so many that are governing your company, and then and thus you need to be so informed of what and even what body is regulating your company. So if it is a health center, then you have to be working. If you are in Uganda, the National Drug Authority has got to license that those operations. And if it is education and it is universities, then the National Council for Higher Education has got to license the operations of the university, and regulating its management, even regulating the courses that are hosted in that university. There are various laws. If it is telecom, your business is in telecom, then that has to be regulated by the Uganda Communication Commission, and therefore has got to comply with the laws that govern telecom services and communication services in the country. If it is a finance institution and it is microfinance or a bank, then actually the regulator body is the the Bank of Uganda as a licensor as well. So Bank of Uganda has to regulate your bank operations through the Finance Institutions Act, Financial Institutions Act, and the other laws that regulate that. Even in the capital markets, if you're selling shares or buying shares, then there are the Uganda, the Capital Market Authority that is regulating all that. All these are actually laws that you need to be aware, and there are very many laws. That's why your business actually can have a lawyer to make sure that if it comes to legal existence and legal operations, then a lawyer can guide in some instances, so that you are still aligned to the operations of the state, and you are complying with the legal provisions of the state. Now, when it comes to another environment within which businesses have to observe and operate, so that their services and products or infrastructure development are done with development, and also done with consideration of the environment surrounding them, is that of the international environment. International environment has a direct influence on the operations of your business, whether it is a private business or a public business. There are international ties that are made between states, and these are declarative on how businesses within states have got to be operating. So in the international setup, there are what we call international standards organizations and international laws that govern movement of people between states, and also movement of goods and services between states, and regulates also what kind of goods have got to be exported and or imported, and also of what quality and what volume. So all those are actually specified. If it comes to international the international environment, you can look at some of the international agents such as the UN and the European Union. You will see we also have the Africa Continental Free Trade Area that has really come on board, and where recently trying to trade between countries became very hard. And in the international setup, actually, if Africa goes ahead to make sure that the interstate barriers or interstate trade barriers are lifted, then we shall be having a single currency, and possibly create a name for it, where if you're trading or your products made in Uganda to a country in Nigeria, so over roof or through the air, there are no barriers imposed, and then you can even sell your goods to Nigeria without facing barriers such as taxes, which are very prohibitive. So if the trade barriers are lifted, and in East Africa we are having the East African community, or the East African bloc, then possibly if products are made in Uganda, and they can be checked on the border, but not to impose taxes that are limiting or blocking businesses from exporting goods to another state. So it widens the market of goods to states, and thus where the African Continental Free Trade Area is actually effective, then businesses have got to be aware internally, and then start competing Africa-wide, or even to other continents through trading in goods, processed goods, and also in export of services to such states. So when it comes to international environment, you will see that for example, in the current times, the UN and the European Union and even the East African community are fronting the digitization of business and governments, and even digitization of education. And where you are setting up a business that is focusing on that in the international atmosphere, you can go and seek for funding, and it can be an easy to access fund option for your enterprise, because it is within the international plan, the international agenda of the UN and of the even of the European Union. So if one in your business you can study how internationally you can go, then possibly you will have to create an office within your business called International Relations Office, so that you are able to relate with the foreign countries and work closely with the ambassadors of those states to be able to look into the opportunities that could be in another state while you are in Uganda. And then through those embassies or consulates within those countries, then you can know what those countries planning, and then what possibly you can do, or you can how you can get contracts to supply the government or supply the private sector in those respective states where you have done the study, and you have done your research and also established international relations ties, and you can now go and say you are going to build their road, you are going to supply them with sugar in the international market. So in Uganda here, we see that companies such as Cipla Quality Chemicals Limited earlier on was operating as Quality Chemicals Limited, but as it sought for some funding and mergers to work, it had mergers and acquisitions right from the Indians, so that could facilitate more on production of drugs. It's human medicine and also animal drugs. So and that is possible if you have an international touch and you've studied what is in the international market and how possibly you can partner with the various stakeholders in those states to be able to compete nationally, and also expand the production base through partnership, expand the market base and the trading lines through partnerships and collaborations with the international state. The international state is also very busy setting up some provisions by law, and you have had issues of human rights affecting business operations, that humanitarian actions within your business should be complying with the international standards of setups of human rights. Though countries are saying not all human rights are actually right, yeah, the companies cannot remain in the blindfold of knowing actually what is happening in the international setup of human rights and the diplomatic relations. So it requires that as a company establishment, or as an organization, you are actually able to see what are the international provisions of law, international ties in relationships that can result into development of your institution, but also if you gave consideration to these international relations issues, then you can actually create avenues of partnerships with these international agents to promote your enterprise. When you look at the other side of the other environment, which we call the cultural environment, culture is very key. That the culture that is cultivated within your business should also be aligning to the culture that is accepted in your in the communities where this business is operating. You've seen that in Uganda, companies such as Airtel, a telecommunication company, has been working so closely with the Kingdom of Uganda and laboring so much to make sure that these ties are even productive, and that when the K2, a telecom company which was owned by the Kingdom of Uganda and promoted by the majestic brands of Uganda, then Airtel had to seek if where this K2 was not doing well in business but needed to actually remain buoyant and afloat, then Airtel had to talk to the Kingdom of Uganda, whichever side talked to the other, and they had a merger of business. So to make sure that the Kingdom telecom company continues in the waves of the country, so we have the Airtel K2 now in operation, and all the Kingdom celebrations and all the Kingdom parties or any other events are managed by and promoted by Airtel Uganda Limited. You've seen the marathon or the coronation of the king, Airtel coming up and standing with the kingdom to make sure that the kingdom affairs are successful. We've seen in countries like Busoga, where they treasure the king of Busoga so much that when the king was marrying recently, companies came up and donated much money to the kingdom, and you see the Nile brewery is coming up to fund, and even that their bottles they had to put the wedding pictures to their bottle and their to their beer, so that to show that they are still together and in a strong bond with the kingdom. You saw telecom companies and banks donating millions of money to have a successful wedding, and if, for example, there were not issues of culture promoted by businesses, and businesses are closing themselves from promoting cultural aspects of the community, then possibly these businesses cannot be very successful in those communities, because people belong to culture and culture belongs to people, and these are the people who are working in the companies, and they are the people who are working who are buying the products from this company or the services. So even some companies have gone ahead to have cultural events within their within their premises, and even allowing staff to have cultural celebrations and cultural groups within the enterprise. So when it comes to culture, music, dance, drama cannot be left aside. And if it is a celebration of your party, or a celebration of your anniversary of the company, and on that day you bring all the people from another country to showcase, but leave the culture people from the community to also come and showcase, then your business is operating in isolation of the cultural attachment of the community. So you will see that when it comes to issues of helping the sick, the community also wants, if there is someone in the community that is really sick and your enterprise is aware, then that's where you see your enterprise going ahead to help that person to get out of that problem. And even if there are funerals, you will see there are letters written and the condolence messages written from your company to those events, to those funeral rites, communicating how aggrieved you are for the loss of that person, and the contributions you make to those events and ceremonies. A good gesture that tells us that your company respects culture. And there are countries where there are communities where the national flag has got to be hoisted on the compound of your company, and that is a true reflection of nationality and the culture heritage of the community. Even the flag of the king of the kingdom, up to the East African community, if the business is operating in for example in Uganda. So if those issues are not out there, then the communities, like our culture, is thrown apart, is sidelined by the company. Your adverts, for example, could have some cultural attachment. For example, people who are riding boats and using oars, and they are actually, that's what they are doing in their community. And people who are involved in agriculture, and possibly you're capturing events where they are in their gardens, or some of the wedding events. You're capturing some of those and embedding them into your communication messages to see that your business is attached to the cultural environment of the community in which it is operating. We have what we call the natural environment. So the natural environment is now an environment that is involving the natural resources. Remember that your business is either using natural resources or is trading in already manufactured goods from the natural resources. And actually it is also seated on the natural resources and using natural resources. So we cannot separate your business from natural resources. The natural resources we have can be categorized into 7. One is the light. 2 is air. So your enterprise has got to be very sensitive with air. The other is water. Your enterprise has got to be very sensitive with water. Then the other is land, also being very careful with land issues. The other aspect being plants. So that is greenery and plants in the community. Then the other element is what we call the element of animals. So even protection of animals in the communities is very key. Then we also have the other aspect, the aspect of people, the aspect of people as also a contributors of what the components that make up our natural environment. So where we have talked about light, then we talked about air, we talked about water, land, plants, animals, and people as ingredients that make up the natural environment. So it means that as you make decisions within your enterprise, possibly, and it is very key that you note that there is there are resources to protect. There are also resources in the environment that we need to be sensitive of, as issues such as are attributed to air, like your company is polluting the environment, polluting air, and uh, air is being polluted, and you are not taking note that the environment need to have clean energy. Clean energy means that you, instead of using fuel driven equipment and machines, then you adopt some electrically driven machines that do not actually pollute the air and pollute the environment. It is actually estimated that pollution has grown that high, and is growing what we call the carbon emissions. Carbon emissions are growing high. That the carbon, the volume of carbon is so much in the atmosphere that is breaking down the ozone layer, to the extent that with the temperatures of the world increasing beyond the 1.5 degrees Celsius that is estimated by the European Union and the UN. And it is a growing concern in the world that we are having increasing temperatures, and temperatures are, the world is looking towards reducing temperatures from 3 degrees Celsius to 2 degrees Celsius to at least the bare minimum of 1.5 degrees Celsius. So it means that as you set up your business, yes, you need to be sensitive with the air, and to promoting clean air, especially looking at using electrically driven machines and vehicles. So those electric vehicles are going to be increasing in our communities, and it is actually a world concern. There's a degree course I've been doing with the University of the Estonian Business School in Estonia, Tallinn, within Europe, and focusing on leading change, especially looking at green transition and digitization of the world. So when it comes to clean energy, we need to see green businesses where you have planted trees. You have also you're also using electronically driven machines. You could also opt for solar energy where possible, other than using fuel driven machines. Vehicles and even buildings are also emitting much, causing more carbon emissions in the atmosphere. So those, when it comes to water, waste, managing waste is very key, especially when it comes to disposal of waste, and making sure that at least you have garbage disposal mechanisms that separate what can decompose from what cannot decompose, especially separating rotting material from polythenes and plastic materials, and then also metals. So those that can be recycled should go to be recycled, and should become also cheaper to recycle them, because your company or your business has a bin or bins where your clients can dispose of the garbage in with the separation of what can decompose, that can go back to the gardens and act as manure and fertilizers, and what cannot decompose, that can be recycled in the industries, so that polythenes and plastics don't become very even very expensive to clean when it comes to cleaning them to be recycled. And in our communities, you see that people are mixing up. They mix up. If it is a polythene, then it is just disposed of in a place where it mixes up with soil. And even there, if there are bottles, there is not that precision of separating them from being contaminated, so that it becomes cheaper to clean them when it comes to recycling, is not part of the community's concern. So those concerns have got to be raising in your business operations and your business endeavors, so that you're able to protect the environment and also conserve environment. If it comes to water, we've seen many businesses being established in the wetlands, and recently in Uganda we saw ad events where the National Environment Management Authority was having collision with people over settlement in wetlands, and establishing business and settlement areas, building residential houses in the wetlands and those gazetted areas. And these houses were being broken, and people were crying for help. So as you're establishing your business, yes, do what we call a natural environment assessment exercise, so that you assess whether the business, the place of location of the business, is actually within the place of operation of business authorized in that state. Some countries are actually setting up what we call industrial parks. They are setting up trade centers. They are setting up designated places where specific businesses have got to actually be operating. And those places, those are some fertile places where you can actually establish your business. Otherwise, we have seen people establishing businesses on some places, on some land which is not authorized. The government has what we call reserves, road reserves. You see someone has built a house close to the road, and the next day it is being broken, and the capital has been invested, and a lot of money has been invested in that. So we need to identify and be careful with the natural environment, that as you establish your business, it is affecting the environment, especially if it comes to land. Yes, there are wetlands, dry lands, there are islands, there are valleys. So you need to know, to have a plan, what we call an architectural plan, approved by the authorities, either by the authorities at the district or authorities at the state, authorizing establishing that infrastructure on that business or operation in that place, and the architectural plan has been approved by the technical office responsible for approving plans. So in Uganda, it is the physical planner of the district physical planner and district physical planning offices have those provisions. So when it comes to plants, for example, forests, they have to be protected. Those forest reserves have got to be protected, and also making sure that there is arboriculture in cities, that's planting trees in the cities, as we also have businesses that do reforesting and or reforesting, to have businesses that can do green transition, that can plant trees and also make sure that they are dealing in trees, and they are planting trees and making sure even all greenery that are not trees are grass and everywhere. So we see that many companies are doing paving of grounds, yet using some greens do better. So so that we have reducing carbon emissions, but at the same time we have to be very sensitive with the with reserves. There are places which are reserved not to be land that is not that should not be used for any business activity or business endeavor. So when you go and someone is selling to you that land maybe cheaply, and then you go buy it and start establishing your enterprise, and here the authorities are coming to evict you from your property, saying that you acquired it unlawfully, or that was not an authorized place of business, then you lose a lot and you regret much. So that's why in business and environment, we need to make decisions basing on assessment of the environment, so that business operations are successful, and also considering what is actually happening there. When it comes to animal, there are some animals which are not allowed to be harvested or slaughtered. So or even encroaching on them is unlawful in some communities. In Uganda here, when it comes to rhinos, and that the rhinos and even and the elephants are becoming extinct because of poaching. So they are national parks, and so where their animals or any animal has been discovered in your community, either it is a lion and it is eating up your business, which is a farm of goats, and so you have, instead of killing the lion, then the law provides that you actually call the Uganda Wildlife Authority to come and take control and actually and get the animal and take it back to the game park. So and when it comes to now trading in those animal hides and skin or bones or flesh, or even trading in ivory, there are regulations regarding such businesses in countries, and people who should do that are licensed specifically to operate those businesses. So if you're found with ivory and you don't have a license to trade in ivory, then yourself and your business are likely to close up. Your business is likely to close up, and you're also likely to be apprehended and imprisoned or incarcerated. So you really need to be very sensitive when it comes to animals, and even animals have their rights, that to the extent that transporting animals, yeah, you need to have met the doctors, and they have approved that that animal can move from one place to another, and that the means of transport you're going to use are not going to be affecting the health of the animal or inflicting pain. So that is why it is very central that as you think to transport these animals, uh, you've seen people transporting chicken and the legs are upside down, the head is down, and all those against the rights of animals. And if one is found doing so in some countries, your business can be banned from operating at all. So those countries that are very strict with the treatment of animals, whether the animals are pets or they are domesticated for food, and or they are wild animals, or they are aquatic animals. So you find that if a business is really going to be operating and you're doing fishing and you're going to poison fish, and that is your business, you're going to catch many if you poisoned than using nets that are authorized. Even the nets are authorized, and then you poison, then it is not within the laws of the country, then your business is bound to be closed, and even yourself or the management of the enterprise is likely to be incarcerated or banished from operating such a business again. So the story of the natural environment is quite wider, because the natural environment is so wide that we cannot condense it within this lecture. But you see that distributions of resources are key. If it is an extraction of a resource, for example, or if gold is discovered in an area in some states like Uganda, the government takes control to regulate their minerals and who extracts them. So the government can evict people from land and compensate them if it has discovered that there are some minerals or petroleum minerals or natural elements which are discovered in that area. So those people can be displaced. And even when you're getting involved in extraction of minerals in a community, so you are extracting iron or gold or copper, cobalt or any other mineral, then possibly the government is saying, yeah, you can do so, but you need to get a license for doing that. You need to get a license for doing that, either an exploration license to explore and see where the minerals could be, or an extraction license to extract where the minerals can be. We saw recently that there was a company that was involved in extracting sand, which they call sand that can be used for glasses and the microchips used in computers. And they were closed out from extracting this sand from the Victoria waters and also from the swamps, because they did not have the license to do so, because even sand is considered as a mineral. It's considered as a mineral that needs to be extracted within the laws of the state, and therefore such a business was closed, and the proprietors' vehicles were impounded by government, and that it was a business of regret. So here we are looking at business that we need to establish without regretting, and therefore we have got to be very careful with when it comes to establishing these business entities and the environments surrounding them. I would like to first make a conclusion. When we come back, we shall be looking at other business environments, and then we shall also be looking at the various aspects which you have to consider while operating a business within those other business environments. This lecture, I would like to close it here. My name is SSebuyungo Wilber Kivekayunga. I'm the director and the propeller of the National Enterprise Program in Uganda. That is designed to make sure that businesses and enterprises in Uganda actually cause the national development, and themselves are developing. I'm a lecturer at Nkumba University in foundational courses, entrepreneurship and management, and also I'm the managing director of the Action Entrepreneurs, which does business planning and organization planning and management, international development, and green transition and digitization. Also do education and consultancy. I would like to end this lecture here. Then when we come back, we shall be looking at the other aspects of environment, of business and the environment, that you need to consider in your business so that your business remains outstanding and is solid in the community. That whenever you're taking a business decision, or you're making a business plan, or you're managing your business or directing it in any direction, you're considering the environments that surround this business. Thank you. Let us link up in our next lecture.